It doesn't matter how, it matters how many. A big 3 points for Canada, and essentially that just about sees them through the group as the top 3 teams advance to the next stage. So job done. That is if Canada is allowed to keep the points, and it sounds like they will. It's a controversy that has just swept the nation in all the wrong ways. The cheating scandal, which kept Bev Priestman off the touchline today, and saw 2 staff members sent home in Jasmine Mander as well as Joey Lombardi. Lombardi himself spent days in jail as he awaited, and is now on his way back to Canada after Canada was busted twice, not once but twice, flying a drone over New Zealand training sessions in restricted airspace. Bev Priestman has not resigned. She's not been sent away from the tournament. COC CEO David Shoemaker says that Priestman said that she didn't know anything about it, so they decided to move on from that. As we've done some digging into this investigation, it is quite clear that it is improbable that Bev Priestman did not know about this. Multiple sources and plenty of people across the Canadian soccer landscape who are connected are now discussing this, that this is not the first time that Canada has used such tactics in their preparation for matches. This kind of spying has been utilized before, not only for the men, but the women, but also the men's national team as well. This comes from multiple sources. In saying that, the use of drones or trying to get intel ahead of matches, maybe in a little bit of an edgy way, trying to blur the lines, it's nothing new in football. Marcelo Bielsa and Leeds United were engaged in a row in 2019 as he was sending people to watch other teams' training sessions as well. In other sports across the board, whether it's the Patriots, the Astros, Jim Harbaugh in Michigan, like this is something that's commonplace. And the drone, according to what people have told me, has been used as part of the arsenal in order for Canada Soccer to prepare for games. There is some sort of discussion and speculation whether the group has been caught and received punishment before. That will all come out in an independent review that's going to be ongoing with Canada Soccer. So certainly any portrayal of Lombardi being a rogue actor in this seems well off base, yet the leadership within the program believes that Bev Priestman, at least for now, is good to stay with this team and the program. What do you make of this scenario? What do you make of this situation and where we find ourselves, Ollie?
Yeah, I don't really know where to start with it, to be honest. There's a lot of different things we could get into. I still find, firstly, just the idea that you could try this at an Olympic Games with the level of security that surrounds an event like this and get away with it is like mind-blowing to me. That's the part of it like I really struggle to get my head around, because you know we've covered this team, we've covered this staff, Bev Priestman and her staff. They are not stupid people, and they've done something that seems like a really stupid thing before you even get into the morality of it and the competitive advantage aspects of it. So that part of it I still I'm really struggling with. I do think, you know, you just touched on a lot of this, Wheels, that it's very, very difficult to believe that this is just lone wolves acting kind of out of character of the rest of the group. It's very difficult to believe that Bev Priestman did not know about this. I think there needs to be much more of an explanation as to how she did not know about this, if that's possible, for anyone to really be convinced by a claim like that. And I think this is something that you can kind of see has become somewhat cultural within Canada Soccer and within the senior national teams over the past few years. You know, if there's an overarching philosophy when it comes to these two national teams, it's one of this kind of high performance mindset, marginal gains, getting 1% wherever you can, more than it is really a footballing philosophy. I think it's a psychological philosophy that this team has really taken over the past few years. And inevitably, when you take that kind of approach, you do eventually butt up against ethical questions, right? You know, where is it fair to get that extra 1%? Where is it fair to gain a competitive advantage over your opponent, and what's acceptable and what's not? And like, quite frankly, we've seen instances in the past where this kind of behavior was insinuated or suggested, or accusations were made. We saw it in 2021 when Honduras came to Canada for a World Cup qualifier and said they'd spotted a drone over their practice session. And at the time, it was just kind of, brushed over. And John Herdman was asked about it in a press conference even and played it quite light. And I think, to be honest, everyone laughed along with him. And I'm not excluding myself from that. So there's something about the kind of culture that's developed, I think, at Canada Soccer, where, it's Canada not being the nice guys anymore. Canada getting their, a bit of giving CONCACAF a bit of a taste of their own medicine, that I think set the groundwork for things like this becoming acceptable within the national teams. And it's something that now, there's going to be this independent review. I'm glad that it mentions that they're going to look at the competitive ethics of the team and not just this individual incident. And I think they're probably going to find that this stuff has been stewing for a while.
Jordan, what do you make of this? What are you hearing?
First, I just want to talk about Ollie's comment about it being stupid. I think it's stupid maybe to the naked eye if this is something that you're trying for the first time, but everything that points to this is comfortability. If you're at the biggest stage in the Olympics, where all eyes on you, there's the highest level of security. It's the biggest event in the world. And if this is a part of something that you do regularly, this just feels like another tournament, another advantage to gain. So that's why, for me, again, all eyes point to this is something that has just been done. And I'm not excusing it. I'm not condoning it. I'm not saying that it's right. I am questioning if this is something that is just a part of the camp. For me, as a former player, when I look at these situations, I just have to say a quick story. Like, former manager in Denmark, the second best league, we would go, and if you look at Scandinavia, they're so tactical about other teams and how they play and how they want to do their football, and they do all this film. And oftentimes a Thursday, a Friday, a Saturday before a match on Sunday, we would talk about this great number 10 that this other team had. And it comes to the Sunday and we go and we get the game sheet and we look at the team. Homeboy's not even playing. I learned very early on in my career, you focus, Gareth Wheeler, on your camp, what you're going to do to get the best. Yes, I understand if you're looking maybe at, it would be great to know where a penalty kicker likes to go or what set pieces a certain team might have. But at the end of the day, great teams will adapt. You can see in the first minute, hey, they're playing 3 in the back. They're playing 5 in the midfield. This is how they're going to do. You have 5, 10, 15 minutes to really adjust. For me personally, when I look at this situation, I think it's silly to have a drone fly over another team that you're going to play and try to get these little percentages, because for me, that isn't really a big gain. I think it's more focusing on the group that you have. I feel like when I look at this team, there is far more upside that Canada has just focusing insular and what they have to do. So for me to cheat and to get all these percentages and gains off of a drone, I think for me that's silly.
Right. That's your perception, but this is something clearly that they use. Yes. And players will be asked about this. And I don't know what you're hearing, Jordan, like whether players are being produced with drone type footage at their training sessions. Like, Ollie, you cover this team as well. There is a drone at every training session. Yeah. It is just part of the equipment that they use to provide a tactical advantage. So the fact that this happens at the Olympics, it's not surprising in a lot of ways. It's surprising that they use it in that way that they've been accused upon and been busted for, when the airspace is restricted. Like, it is beyond stupid. It's ridiculous that they thought they could get away with it. It's ridiculous that they tried to do this in the first place. And a person amongst their staff is facing real life consequences for it. I just wonder, obviously there'll be a review about the program. That's fine. But FIFA are conducting their own review as well. I don't think that this is done. It's done with the COC, maybe not so much with the IOC. We will see how that process is. I just fail, and I'm not advocating for this, but I fail to understand how Bev Priestman will keep her job here. Not because of the drone thing in the past and trying to find, it's the fact that it was done at the Olympic Games in this way, and the level of truthfulness and or leadership or lack thereof that she has shown since. Because essentially one individual is being portrayed as a perpetrator, and her claiming that she knew nothing about this when she leads an 18-person staff at these Olympic Games. I'm shocked that she remains standing for the time being. And I expect once you start peeling back the layers, it might be a little bit nervous about what you may find when you do that. I wonder about her future and what it means, Oliver Platt, and whether she can survive this. Or go ahead, Jordan.
I'll also say quickly, Wheels, there is 0 to no chance that Bev Priestman doesn't know about drones flying over to others. Look, when you're in a camp and you have a coach, everything that is happening, the coach is hearing about it. If you're leading the line, Bev Priestman is leading, has 18 staff members. There are meetings, everything that's going on. There's no, like, again, I said little to no chance that she doesn't know about everything that's going on within her camp or within her squad.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think, obviously it does matter, but I think in terms of determining Bev Priestman's future, I don't think it even matters. I'm with you guys. I find it impossible to believe that she wouldn't be aware of something like this. But the reality is, whether she was aware of it or not, no one is going to find it credible for her to claim that she wasn't. And with that being the case, it's going to be very, very difficult for her to continue past this Olympic Games. We'll see if there's any more subsequent punishment for her personally beyond the game she's obviously sat out today. But I think it's impossible to imagine Priestman continuing as Canada coach beyond this tournament in the wake of something like this.
This is going to be a real challenge, and the first real challenge like this for Peter Aggruso and Kevin Blue. Bev Priestman was giving a contract extension during a time of change for some reason. It was forced through this contract extension in January. Now the new individuals in charge are forced to decide what to do. I'm just surprised that Bev didn't take the time to acknowledge that this is what was being done. She took responsibility, but she didn't acknowledge that she was part of it, step away from the Olympic Games, and then her future could be decided after. Now, with her being around and being part of the second game, the distraction remains, and she's going to be the focal point of it. Look, it's a really awkward situation. Yes, it is cheating. Is it like other cheating? What scale? I understand all these things, but it's just this team has been exposed and are not being fully forthright in the process of what actually took place. And that remains many more questions to be answered. Anything more on this, guys, before we move on?
Yeah, I would just add, when it comes to, punishments that could be coming down the line, I think it's okay to, we can hold Canada Soccer and all the individuals involved accountable for this. And I think they obviously should be, while also retaining some kind of sense of proportion here. And I do think that some of the suggestions that are out there, New Zealand has obviously already asked for the game to be forfeited on Canada's part, or for Canada to gain no points regardless of the result. That to me is losing some sense of proportion for the situation here, let alone kicking Canada out of this Olympic Games. The people who are responsible are the coaches. Ultimately, Bev Priestman. I do think that the assistant coaches, they're adults. They have some autonomy as well, as much as they report to Priestman. They are the people who are responsible for what's happened here, not the 18 or 22 players on this roster. The athletes, as far as we know at this point, and I'd be surprised if this changes, did not have anything to do with this. So we can, there is precedence for this. You can look at the Marcelo Bielsa situation. We was mentioned earlier on in the show. There were no suspensions for Bielsa there. There was no games forfeited. There was a fine, and there was obviously a clear expectation that conduct would change going forwards, which it did. And there hasn't been like an epidemic of drones or spying on training sessions in England because that punishment wasn't heavy enough. So I just hope that we don't go completely overboard here and wreck the summer and the Olympic hopes of some athletes who haven't done anything wrong.
I totally agree with you. And when we peel it back, and whether, the fact that this has been going on over the course of the last decade, to me, it's so what? If there's any direct fine, it should be to do with this instance. You're not going to go back in time and legislate things that maybe could have happened in the past. It's all about how the CSA wants to conduct their business going forward. This is a wake-up call, I think, for everyone involved, and that's how it should be taken. And all you pointed it out in their statement, they're reviewing about how they want to be in terms of their competitive approach to sporting events. That's up for them to establish with clear expectations moving forward. So,
I just hate in these situations how in years to come, 2024 is going to be looked at as like the drone situation. Like no matter how far what happens in this tournament, like that's what happens, and it just taints something that's good. Because I think these players have worked really hard to get to this point. And again, it's going to be, you're going to look back on it and we're going to think about the drone.
It's what happens when you're caught doing something really stupid. Patriots, Astros, Michigan football. You can go down the
Long
list. And that tag will be attached to this program, unfortunately, for the foreseeable future. All right, time to look at the lines for this weekend in the Canadian Premier League, presented by TonyBet. Top picks time. It should be another good weekend in the CPL. York United and Atletico Ottawa. York at plus 220, plus 112. If you want to back Ottawa, it's a top of the table clash. Ollie, who you backing?
I'm going to keep rolling with York United. I think they've been excellent at home this season. At that price, give me York United plus 220.
Jordan?
Ooh. As much as I want to go with Ollie, I can't. I think that if it was at TD Place and it was Atletico Ottawa against York, I'd back York. But I think this one has a draw written all over it, looking like a 1-1 if you ask me.
Plus 240. By the way, Ottawa, the best away side in the Canadian Premier League. Vancouver and Cavalry. Vancouver at plus 131. Jordan.
My boys, our boys, the Eagles. As much as I know that Cavalry are going to turn it around at some point, maybe I'm biased, but the Eagles, man, I'm going with Vancouver FC for this one.
Forge and Halifax Wanderers. Ollie, who you backing?
I'm going to take... Halifax have had a good time with it at St. Wilson's Field, and plus 340, I'm going to take a gamble on the Wanderers.